shall be wholesome. They will surrender soon.
The Bosch?
Intro.
That's not likely, not while they still have a way out.
This is another how to reset video, or I would like to clarify one thing. I really don't care if my female character is either trans or anything. The one thing I don't want is that kind of thing, the whole trans stuff, is being forced down to me, okay? I'm going to showcase a few clips from Hypnotic. Again, like I said, I'm not going to play all of it. I'm going to show snippets of it, and then we'll talk about it, okay? There's a lot of examples, but I think this one is perfectly
for Samus Aran, and this is where the majority of the video is going to take place. So now that we know that they're trying to translink by literally putting Link on HRT, now we have Samus Aran. It says, in the original Metroid, game materials obscure Samus's gender or refer to her as male. In Super Metroid, this is also the case, but it was a setup for the surprise ending of the game in which Samus is revealed to be female. That is literally it, guys. That is all there is to it. They really reference Samus as male because they wanted to keep the surprise of her being female all the way until the end when you got the secret ending. In a press from that era, Samus was described as being 6'3" and 198 pounds, though later depictions of her having portrayed her as smaller and more conventionally feminine. At about this time, her trans status was revealed by game writers. Oh my god, here we go. This is going to be great. In 1994, the writers of the official Japanese Super Metroid strategy guide asked Metroid developers if they could share any secrets about the intergalactic bounty hunter. Hirofumi Matsuoko, who also helped on the original design for Samus Aran, claimed that she wasn't a woman, but instead a new half. This language has its own issues, but terminology used for gender in the early 90s was different in Japan as it was in the West. And what do they source? They source an article from the Mary Sue. Mary Sue. That is what we are sourcing right now, where Mary Sue says the following all the way back in 2015. It says Metroid's Samus Aran is a transgender woman. Deal with it. It has over 2,200 comments on this article. This is probably the only article that people have ever clicked on the Mary Sue. Mary Sue is a website that makes literally zero money and has honestly been losing money and got subsidized by private investors over in Australia in order to be saved. Why am I not surprised? They go on to say that representation for transgender people is equally tough to find in gaming, but apparently that's why they're thrilled to tell you that one of the most famous women in video game history happens to also be a transgender woman. It's none other than Nintendo's Samus Aran. It's true. In 1994, and then they go on with the same nonsense that the last person said. There has been some debate asking if the comment was in jest or genuine. Some have compared Matsuoka's use of new half to the offensive Western term she-male. It's impossible to interpret this as an ugly joke about Samus's traditionally masculine appearance, as illustrated in the 80s by Nintendo Power, where she is said to be 6'3" and 198 pounds. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to understand that this is one of those situations where they're taking something that was said in Japan that they have no understanding of, and they're applying their own understanding to it. They even openly admit here in this article that they don't know what he actually meant. They don't know whether he was trolling or they don't know whether he was serious. I would have to imagine, based at the time that this was taking place, that he was probably trolling, because again, they wanted to keep Samus's identity a secret. They don't want people to understand what Samus was. So, of course, they're going to end up trying to be a little bit ambiguous with it, or just end up trolling people to see what they could get away with. This is before the day of really modern day internet, so I need you guys to understand the difference between all of that. This is not the first time they try to misunderstand.
Now you know why you see things such as body type A or body type B or body type 1 or body type 2, and that's gonna keep on going, okay?
These contexts, you know, there is a term right now, and I'm going to explain what it is. There is a term called otokonoko, and otokonoko is a Japanese term that translates to boy girl or boy daughter and refers to a male who dresses in feminine clothing. While the term is a Japanese slang for men who cross-dress in anime, manga, etc., it has also become a subculture in Japan where men cross-dress for entertainment and performance, similar to drag culture. The otokonoko subculture is a form of gender expression and is not necessarily tied to gender identity or sexual orientation. So what they do in the West is that they take characters in media that are referred to in Japan as otokonokos, and what they do is they make them trans through localization, which is not what it is at all. If you are an otokonoko, and if you talk to anybody who classifies themselves as that in Japan, and this has been expressed by Japanese people before, they will tell you that they are boys. They will tell you
That's
that
right.
they are men. They're not going to sit up here and pretend as if they're trying to live their life as females. They live their life as men, but they end up dressing either for fun or entertainment or for work or for whatever, or just overall because they like to. They end up dressing as a woman temporarily, but eventually they go back to looking like men in their everyday life, and they live their lives as
That's right.
men in everyday life. So they try to take these characters that are Otokonokos and they transform them into trans representation in the West and try to pretend as if these characters are trying to become women. There is a distinction there that they are purposefully misrepresenting for whatever that reason to be, so that they can have extra representation in the West for characters that come out from the East, even though that representation may or may not actually be there, and 99% of the time it's not actually there.
That's the first part that needs to be addressed, is localization. And also writers. Don't you know, right now, you may say that game developers are the core of it, but the real core of any gaming or any video game is the writers, okay? Without good writers or without talented writers, the game is pretty much kaput. Which one do you know that is talented in this modern time when it comes to writing? Because without talented writers, the game will ultimately fail, okay? Now I showcased that first clip because that is the first thing. It's the first example, and there's many more, but this will go long enough. If you have any examples, you can share it in the comments. And now you see why the East and the West are practically different from one another. Unlike in the West, Hypnotic would say, that person that dressed like, or in this case that cross-dress, they go back to being men, okay? That's what it is. They're not like the West, who most of them have, LGBTQ, and you wonder why many people dislike the LGBTQ community even more. Every gamers, they really don't care what you do in your private life, okay? Let's be clear on that one. What we don't want is for you to inject your personal politics and force it down our throat, okay?
Characters that come out from the East, even though that representation may or may not actually be there, and 99% of the time it's not actually there. So this is exactly what they're doing with Matsuoka, with his context about the new half. And even in Mary Sue, they say in the uglier context, new half refers to trans women who have not had gender confirmation surgery, equivalent to Matsuoka laughing and remarking, yeah, Samus has a dick. Exactly. Like, it's literally just a joke at the end of the day, and they're utilizing a joke.
Easily
Brianna
offended.
Wu and the Mary Sue and all these people are utilizing a joke by Matsuoka about, Samus supposedly being a new half, and they're trying to take it so serious that now apparently it makes her canonically trans. This is the extent of which their psychosis goes, and it's unbelievable. Now, obviously, there's been some negation to this whole comment where Matsuoka's remarks, some gamers have pointed out to an FAQ on the Japanese Zero Mission site by Yoshio Sakamoto, co-director of Metroid, where there he says Samus being a new half is not impossible, but unlikely. Others have pointed to Samus's portrayal as a child in Metroid Zero Mission, Metroid Other M, and official manga as proof that she is actually a real woman. Listen,
Yes.
I'm going to tell you right now, Samus is a woman, okay? That's just what it is. Samus is a woman. You need to get over it. This whole idea of trying to make Samus trans for whatever stupid reason you have is, you got to let it go. Go make another character that's trans. If you want to copy the character, go do whatever you want to do. But do not try to sit up here and try to take away one of the most famous and known female characters and try to make them have a dick. That is going to be like, that is unbelievable that you are trying to do this. And apparently it doesn't just end there. It's not just Samus, it's Link as well. There's other characters in Nintendo that they're trying to make trans. I don't understand why we are even trying to look at gender identity or sexual identity in Nintendo video games of all video games. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yet you wonder how come many Eastern games utilize mostly male and female, unlike in the West. And if I had to make a guess, folks, the word Samus or Samus, I don't know how to say that word, it could be a female, okay? Do you know any people who is male has the name Samus? Male, okay? Not transgender, right?
I don't know. At this point, these people are insane. So now we're going to return back to the Gamers article where things are going to get really interesting, where they try to claim that this is a popular fan theory. So if we scroll down here, we're going to see the article talking about the actress where she says the following: I still think Nintendo should come out and tell us what we already know, which is that Samus is trans. She says with a wry smile and a chuckle, people just think that we've misunderstood her character. They think that she's like a mother, and it's like, no, she's a badass trans bounty hunter from space. Okay. She then moves on to talk about how good The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is, stating that it's great that Nintendo has given players control of the titular character before circling back to her previous point, interjecting, also, Nintendo, call me when you want to make the Metroid movie. Now, this is coming from a trans actress that worked on Baldur's Gate, by the way, which is hilarious. So it's literally like you are wanting to just see your version of yourself in whatever video game. You are co-opting popular known characters already to push whatever your modern day nonsense is. This is why people this is why you can't hate games journalists enough. And I know that this is a common thing that is said on the internet, but these articles are reminders that this is what they want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the actual video games. They don't want to critique the video games in any manner outside of well, there's not enough representation. It really is just superficial bullshit.
Yet you wonder right now why normies, those who regularly buy games, you wonder why they are now slowly but surely distrusting the video game journalists. There are some normies who are still utilizing video game journalists, but at the same time, it is slowly and surely distrusting them. It is disconnecting them.
All of them circle jerking each other and trying to just make each other feel better about just being completely left out of the conversation. It says, while Thorne's comments were a little tongue-in-cheek, they're relevant to ongoing discussions about diversity and representation within the games industry. Nobody's talking about that.
Nope.
Nobody's talking about diversity and representation in the games industry in any serious manner other than the journalists and the Western gaming industry. Honestly, even the Western gaming industry is slowly but surely giving it up because they realize that nobody actually cares as much as they thought they cared.
Right.
They thought it was going to bring them money, and all it's brought them is pain and suffering and layoffs and studio closures.
Correct.
That's literally it. So they tried to virtue signal about it, and they ended up getting felted over it.
If you want to see the full video, I will leave it in the description or in the pinned comment. Let me talk about localization, okay? To all companies in the East, if you have to use AI, which, look, I'm not advocating, okay? But when it comes to translation, which would you prefer? AI or localization? Think about that. Yes, of course, diversity. Look, I really don't mind if there is a diverse character, okay? But the one thing gamers don't want, okay, is that what you're doing, your trans ideology or anything, being forced down our throat, okay? Gamers just want good, playable, and fun game, okay? That is it. So for the East, I think your best bet, so far I think the Eastern AAA, the one improvement they need to make is of course performance issues, which I'm talking about that right now. Whether your character is ugly or attractive, that will not save your game if the game was broken, buggy, or whatever, okay? It will not. Also, I had to ask, who goes to the Mary Sue anyway for gaming? No, seriously, folks, I had to ask all of you. Now, what else? Also, don't race swap characters, okay? Because I think this whole race swap thing really needs to stop. If you really want to write a good character, it has to be at least appealing, at least interesting, okay? Appealing and interesting for people, aka gamers, to care. Also, for Hazel from South of Midnight, who really likes her? Or better yet, what? I'm trying to think of one character that is a girl boss and is unlikable. I'm losing track. Okay, you can create a trans people, okay, or a trans character. But understand one thing, it had to fit, okay? Look, if you're in, let's say, a medieval settings, like in the case of Soul Ash, there's no trans, okay? Mostly male and female. That's the difference, okay? Unlike, of course, if it's sci-fi, sci-fi is a different thing, okay? But most importantly, this is the most important thing, okay? You do not force it down people's throat, okay? Diversity character must be, it cannot be forced. Let's just say it cannot be forced, okay? Let it be natural. Before you say I should, I don't know, quit YouTube or even touch grass and go talk to a real woman, give some dose of reality. I know, I'm gonna repeat this because some people don't get the point. In 2018, okay, I worked at a printing shop before I do this full time. And guess what? Within 6 years working there, I've met virtually everybody, male and female, of all race, of all gender. And most importantly, I met tourists. 2026 is gonna be a fun day.